5 minutes. Who is going? Who is going? 5 minutes. Okay.
Welcome.
All right. I'm with you.
For instance, in a country
I didn't get that.
where the inflation rate, in a country
Okay.
where the inflation rate is decreasing yearly,
Okay.
does the time value of money changes?
Okay. In a country where the inflation rate is increasing, right?
Decreasing
Oh, decreasing.
yearly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Does the
Or in a
time
given
value?
situation,
You say?
in a given situation where
Okay.
the inflation rate is decreasing,
Okay.
does the time value of money changes?
Okay. Now, if you look at so let me go back. Now, look at the last. Look at the slide now. Look at the last aspect on the slide. Can you see it? Now,
Yes.
inflation has a negative impact on the time value of money. Now, let's stop there. What does it mean? It means if there is inflation tomorrow, you will have to save more than you ought to have saved. Why? Because the purchasing power, inflation leads to prices of goods and services. So it means money will not have value because the ability of money to buy something will be very low. So when there is inflation, 1,000 naira can just buy something that on a norms should be something 500 naira can buy. So that is the impact of inflation on that money. So now look at it from your own question now. If it is deflation, so if the inflation rate decreases, so that means there is no inflation, there is deflation. Definitely the purchasing power will what? Increase. It's going to, whether inflation or deflation, is going to affect the time value of money. And inflation has a negative impact. So inflation will affect it negatively by increasing the purchasing power. So the price of the goods or the services you are rendering or the goods you are buying will increase in the market. So it means that you have to pay more. You have to pay more to get what you want to get. But when inflation rate is decreasing, when it is going down, that means you have to pay less for whatever you want to get. So it means that the interest rates in the in whatever investment platform might reduce so as to be able to earn a more higher value. I believe that is clear.
Yes, sir.
All right.
But
Any
what I
other thing?
also want to understand.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Let's say now in Nigeria,
Okay.
there is deflation instead of inflation.
Okay.
So does that mean that the definition of time value of money changes to the time value of money means that the sum of money is worth more in the future than it is
Yeah.
worth in the present?
Yes.
That is deflation. Does the deflation changes?
Wait, the time value means that the sum of money is worth more now in the
More
present.
in the future. If that is deflation,
Okay,
the
if there
definition
is
will change
deflation,
to what more? Yes.
okay, okay, now let's look at it from this
So the
angle.
definition has to change.
Okay, now, I think I get your question. So let's look at it from this angle. The fact that there is deflation doesn't mean automatically everything, there will be a balance in the equilibrium state of the market. So the deflation might just be for a short time. If you are to look at, if you are to use Nigeria as a case study, the deflation might just be for a short time. So the tendency of the time of the value of money to now be more higher in future than it is in the present might be very slim, unless there is every tendency that the deflation will continue in future years. So it means if deflation continues in future years, there will be stability in the purchasing power of money. There will be stability in the purchasing power of money. So it means I can keep using 500 naira to get something tangible for the next 5 years, for the next 6 years. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
For the next 5 years, for the next 6 years. So, but because an economy experiences a deflation in a current year, it does not give room to quickly reduce things. So we have to study it. We have to study that pattern. Okay, what did we do for us to get to that level of deflation? Let's do more again next year. If we can still attain that level of deflation, let's do more again in coming years. If we can still, so if there's consistency in the level at which the deflation is in the economy, then we can now say the value of money will now be worthing more in the future. But the concept of value of money here should be looked at from the angle of inflation. Should be looked at from the angle of inflation. So using Nigeria as a case study, we all know that in Nigeria, when prices of goods increases, the tendency for it to go down is very, very, very slim. So the fact that it now went down today doesn't mean we should be happy that everything is in balance. No. So the time value of money, like I've said earlier on, will always be from the angle of instability in the purchasing power of money. And instability comes when there is what? Inflation. So do you get my explanation?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I believe that is well cleared.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, welcome. One more person before we proceed. One more person. One more person
Okay, so you have a question on the chat room.
on the chat.
Yes, please.
Okay.
The question says, when there's deflation, can price of things go down? Because I doubt if the Nigerian market respects this method.
Okay. I'm seeing the question now. When there is deflation, can price of things go down? Because I doubt it. Yeah, I guess I just explained that now when I was answering the question that Aminu asked the other time. So, like I said while I was explaining, the pattern has to be studied. The pattern has to be studied. So, what made deflation to occur? So, if we can still keep seeing that thing that made deflation to keep occurring, then we can say there is tendency, not full assurance. There is tendency for the price of goods to go down. But if we are to follow it economics wise, now pay attention, economics wise, when there is deflation, automatically prices of goods and services is expected to go down. But at the same time, not instantly, because we have to study the pattern of that deflation. Is it something that is going to continue to exist for a long period of time? So it's not something that will continue to exist for a long period of time. And it's better the price still remains the way it is. Then we know that we are battling it together. But if it's something that will continue to exist for a long period of time, then can now give every tendency for the price to go down. But if we are to look at it in the way Nigeria operates, the operating system of Nigeria, we all know that when prices are high in Nigeria, the tendency of it to go down is very, very slim. There are no the monetary policy measures, fiscal policy measures that are supposed to be put in place to cover this. They are not really, really effective. So that is the major reason why Nigeria experiences more of inflation than deflation. But automatically, when there is inflation, prices of goods still keeps increasing, keeps going high, because more we have situations whereby people import most. So when you import, you pay import duties, and like I said, this trader doesn't want to make a loss, so he's going to charge the whole price. He's going to sell to the final consumer based on how much he has paid as tax. So it makes the consumer pay more. So the consumer that bears the burden in such situation. So I believe Bello Steven, I believe that's clear, right? So Bello Steven, if that's clear, just send a reply or an emoji that it is clear. All right, so you can move. So let's proceed now. Simple interest. Simple interest. Now, from the word, it's an interest that is simple. All right. So what does simple interest mean? Look at it. Simple interest is the earning on an original amount invested. Earning on an original amount invested. The earning on an original amount invested. So it means that if I invest 5,000 naira based on simple interest, my interest will be calculated on the whole 5,000 naira. Take note. Now, I want to invest 5,000 naira for 5 years at an interest rate of 10%. Now, if you look at it, if I invest 5,000 naira for 5 years at an interest rate of 10%, that's going to give me 2,500. So now look at it. This 2,500 naira interest it is giving me is the interest that is going to cover the whole 5 years. It's not an annual interest. Please take note. I'm trying to be slow so we can get it. The 2,500 naira is not 2,500 for 1 year, year one, 2,500 for year two, 2,500 for year three, 2,500 for year four, 2,500 for year five. No. The 2,500 naira is for the whole 5 years. So it means at the point of investment, I already know how much my interest will be for the whole 5 years. That's simple interest. That's why we said, it is the earnings on an original amount invested. The earning on an original amount invested. So, simple interest is a method of interest that always applies to the original principal amount with the same rate of interest every time cycle. So, it is the same rate of interest for the whole 5 years. So, when we invest our money in any bank, the bank provides us interest on our amount. The interest applied by the bank is of many types, and one of them is simple interest. So, the interest you are calculating for on simple interest is on the principal amount. So, like I said, the interest is for the whole number of period the investment is towards last. the bank. So though majorly, bank makes use of compound interest. Majorly. So there might be some bank that make simple interest. Majorly, bank makes use of compound interest because compound interest allows for your interest to be spread across the number of years. So your interest be spread across the number of years. But simple interest just allows for that your interest to be calculated on the original amount. So it means that this 2,500 naira will be my interest. Then at the end of the 5 years, how much will be my total amount? 7,500 naira. How did I get 7,500 naira? That's 5,000, which is the amount I am investing, plus 2,500, which is the what? Interest for the 5 years. So that gives me 7,500. That's simple. That's simple interest. So your principal amount can now be in form of either a loan or a deposit. So it can be a loan from the bank. It can be like you're borrowing a loan. It can be you are depositing. So your principal amount can come in any form. So that is why underneath you have a loan is an amount that the person borrows from a bank or a financial authority to fulfill their needs. Definitely, if you borrow a loan, you are going to pay back with interest. You deposit an amount to invest in the bank will pay you back. There will be some charges that would go to the bank as well. So that is the concept of simple interest. That's the concept of simple interest. Then you see the formula for calculating simple interest. Interest is equal to what? Principal times rate times time divided by what? 100. So your P is your principal, your rate, your R is your rate, and your T is your what? Time. So your interest is calculated as what? Principal times rate times time, all divided by what? 100. So that your R, that is your rate. Remember, your rate is always in percentage. So that will be R over 100%. So if your rate is 6%, that will be what? 6 over what? 100. And that will give us 0.06. So you can see principal. The principal is the amount that was initially borrowed or invested. So like I said earlier on, principal can either be common or it can be an amount that was invested, deposited to the bank. The rate is the rate of interest at which the principal amount is given to someone. So the rate is on the principal amount. Together, the rate is calculated on the principal amount. Then the time is the duration which the principal amount is given to someone. So the time is the number of years you want that investment to remain in the what? Bank. But just understand the concept of simple interest is that what you your interest is calculated based on your principal amount, based on your principal, and it's calculated for the number of years using so making that investment. So now let's quickly do some little mathematics there. Just follow me while you are with your pen and your notes. Just be noting it as I'm saying it. Now remember that I equal to PRT over 100, right? So if you look at I equal to PRT, let's write that down. I equal to PRT over 100. Now, this formula is for me to be able to calculate my interest. This is the formula to calculate my what? Interest. Now, take note, my amount, which is A, my amount. Now, what is amount? Amount is the total sum the money I have invested becomes. So that's the future value. That's the future value. While your P, which is the principal amount, the principal sum rather, is your present value. Please take note. your P, that is the principal sum, that is the sum of money I am putting in account, the sum of money I'm taking as a loan. So if I'm taking 50,000 naira as a loan from the bank, so 50,000 is my what? Principal. And if I am to pay in total 60,000 naira back to the bank, so 60,000 naira is my what? Amount. So take note of that. So let's do a quick mathematics now. Now, interest is equal to PRT over 100, right? That's principal times rate times time over 100. Now, A, remember that A is equal to what? Principal plus interest. That's amount. So amount is calculated as principal plus interest. Amount is calculated, please hope you are writing as I'm doing this. Now, amount is calculated as principal plus interest. So now, look at it. You see where you have your amount is equal to principal plus interest, right? Now, replace I. So everybody now, replace I. What is I? If you go back to your interest, I. What's your I? PRT over 100, right? So replace that PRT over 100 with I. Where you have P plus I under your amount, replace I there. So A now becomes what? Principal plus what? PRT over 100. Please look at what I asked you to do. A is equal to P plus I, right? So that I that you have, now substitute it with PRT over 100. So it now becomes A is equal to what? P plus PRT over 100. P plus PRT over 100. So now, this P plus PRT over 100, if you now look at it, what is common? P is common, right? P is common. So I'll bring out P. So bring out P because P is common. Bring out P. So if you bring out P now, so you look at it, the first P you have in the bracket, if you divide it by the P that you brought outside, you are left with what? 1. No, P divided by P is 1, right? The first P that is in the bracket, if you bring it out, no, I said P is common. So bring out P. So if you bring out your P, P divided by the first P in the bracket is what? 1. Now, plus, now you have another P there, right? So automatically that P and the P eliminate themselves, right? Yes. So now what are we going to be left with there? RT over 100. So basically, this is a more better formula to use. So this formula helps us to be able to calculate the future value straight. So what this formula does is it helps us to calculate the future value straight, which is the amount figure. So the reason why I want us to do this now is because so that when we are watching the calculation, you are so that when we are watching the calculation, you are going to see how we arrive at this. Oh, it's even on the slide. Sorry for stressing you, but I believe we have gotten it. So if you look at the slide I just moved to now, the down part, you see A equal to P plus I, that's simple interest. Then your A is equal to P plus PRT. So the PRT is still the same thing as PRT over 100. So the same thing I asked you to do is what we have there. So we can see it. Okay, so now a calculation has been done on simple interest and compound interest and annuity. So let us watch the video on the simple interest and see what we did, some of the questions we solved. Let's watch the video, simple interest, and see some of the questions we solved. So because of time, I'll not be able to pause for you to watch it. So, but on your own, watch. But we are going to do some practical so that it makes sense. So that when you are watching it, we are going to see it. So let's do this together, everybody. Now, so let's unmute ourselves. Let's unmute ourselves now. Now, okay. Now let's unmute ourselves. Now, you see a slide where I have illustrations. So let's first look at that's number one. Let's look at number one. Let's look at number one. So we are going to solve it together. Remember the formula. Take note. Go back to the formula. A equals P to bracket 1 plus RT. So just take note of that formula out. Bring the formula out. 1 plus RT. Just bring it out. So know your parameters. What does A stand for? Amount. What does P stand for? Principal. R stand for interest rates. Then T stands for time. So what I'm going to do now is this question, these three questions, or let's say two of these three, we'll solve it now together. And while we are solving rather, you give me your answer. So now look at the first one. So please let's pay attention. They are going to be giving me the parameters together now. A trader borrows 70,000 naira. A trader borrows 70,000 naira. The trader borrows 70,000 naira at 5%. Now, let's change that month to for 5 years. Change the month. Change it for months. I did a calculation on months in the video. So you will see how I calculated for when we have months. But let's make use of years now. When you're watching the video on your own, you will see how I calculated for months. So a trader borrows 70,000 naira at what? 5% for how many years? 5 years. What is the interest, or what interest would the trader pay on the money at the end of the period? So at the end of 5 years, what will be our interest? So now look up, everybody. Let's follow. Remember this formula we got now. That is this formula. A equals P into bracket 1 plus RT. Remember, it's for our amount. So once we have gotten our amount, the first thing we are going to do is to get our amount. Once you have gotten your amount, to now get your interest. So please take note of this now. Your interest will now be amount minus principal. Take note of that. Your interest will now be what? Amount minus principal. Because we are about to solve that question together now. Your interest. So the first thing we will do is we will get our amount. So once we have gotten our amount, your interest will now be calculated as amount minus principal. When you solve the question, send your answer to the chat. Indicate A, the value of A equals to, if it's 10,000, A equals to 10,000, then I equal to 20,000. Then I will check it with what I have here. So let's solve that together now. 5 minutes. So our parameters, your principal will be what? So how much will be what will be your principal? Who can tell me what will be your principal?
70,000.
70,000, right? So your principal will be 70,000. Your number of years, which is T, be what? 5 years. And your interest rate will be what? 5%. So yeah, let's solve it together now. So once you have solved, send your answer to the chat. So I'll be waiting for our answers. Let's do that fast. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So take note that RT is R times T. You know your 5%, will be 0.05. That 5% will be 0.05. So that will be 0.05 times 5. So take note of that. Okay. So one person has sent an answer. Okay, I'm waiting for another person. We have 3 more minutes. So okay, Adetola Zainab, you can proceed to solve number 2. Solve number 2. Solve number 2. Okay, Bello Steven, good. So Bello Steven, proceed to solve number 2 as well. So look at that number 2. I'm still waiting for others to submit number 1. A man invested a certain sum of money for which amounted to 650 naira. So look at it. A man invested a certain sum of money. So the sum of money the man invested is not known. So it means that our principal is unknown. Principal is not known. Principal is not known. So how do we calculate for? So you calculate for your principal. So to calculate for your principal, is going to be that'll be 1 plus RT divided by A will give you your principal. 1 plus RT divided by A. So calculate for that. Let's do that first. Okay. Otego, proceed to solve the second question. Okay. Okay, Moses Bala, proceed to solve the second one. Okay, I'll give us just 2 more minutes for most of us that have not. So, Zainab, Steven, Chegu. Okay, Zainab has solved the 2. Okay, Moses Bala. Okay, Damilola. Okay. So the second one, let's be fast with the second one so we can move. So that's basically the concept about simple interest. It's very, very simple. It's not something difficult. All right, Aminu, we are good. So like we are all very, very good, very, very correct, very correct, very, very correct, very correct. So when we watch the video, with the little we've done, the video will enhance our understanding more. So let me see who else has not submitted. I mean, you have not submitted the second one. Damilola, the second one. Daniel, how did you get 2,226.67? I didn't get that. Daniel, can you try to solve it again? Daniel, try to solve number 2 again. The answer you are getting is not correct. The answer is supposed to be 500 naira as others have calculated for. So you have to look for the principal. That number 2, what you are looking for is the principal. So you have been given the amount already. The amount is 650 naira. So since you have been given your amount to be 650 naira, so it means that the principal is what is left blank. So you have to make principal the subject of the formula. So try attempt it again, Daniel. I'm waiting for you. So okay, Damilola, correct. So Daniel, please do that fast and get back. And Daniel, the first one you only gave the interest, you didn't calculate for the amount. Anyways, just proceed. Quickly do the second one so we can move. Who is Infinix Smart 6? Correct. 500, correct. All right. So I guess Daniel is the only person I'm waiting for now. Oh yeah, Daniel. Sharp, 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 sharp. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang, 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 bang. All right, so Daniel, you can solve it and drop your answer. I'll check it so that we don't waste time. So just solve it and drop your answer. If you are confused, just type a message. If you are confused, type a message. Okay. So, all right. So number 3 question will be for us. Our own. So let's do that. Let's trash that out. So that's not about simple. Like I said, it's an interest that is very simple. So you can see it's very simple, very, very, very simple. So any question on simple? before we move to or is there anyone that has still not gotten any? So let's go fast. Let me give room for question now. Any question on simple interest before we move to compound interest? Yes, I'm waiting. Waiting. Any question on simple interest? Compound interest. None. All right, Daniel, very correct. Yeah, that's good. So I believe we have all gotten that. So, like I said, later on you watch the videos and get more understanding. And if you have watched it, keep watching and understand it. You understand? So let's move to compound interest without wasting much time. So, what's the basic difference between compound interest? Simple. Okay. The basic difference between compound interest and simple interest is that, remember, let's go back. Remember, simple interest is the earning on an original loan. So calculate your interest on the principal. Remember that's what I said. You calculate your interest on the what? Principal amount. That's for simple. What is compound interest? Compound interest is the what? Periodic interest earned on the principal plus previous earned interest. It's just English. Just come. Compound interest is the periodic interest earned. So you can see, just underline or take note of the word periodic. The periodic interest earned. So, number one thing that should come to your mind is that the interest on compound interest is earned annually. For one, take note of that. Interest on compound interest is earned annually, periodically. So, now, some of the interest can be quarterly. Is it going to come that? Is it going to come to that rather? Can be monthly, can be daily, it can be weekly. But understand that the interest on compound interest is on a period basis. So it's now depending on the financial institution where the savings or investment is carried out to know whether the interest will be annually, weekly, daily, continuously. So take note of that again. Interest on compound interest is earned on a periodic basis. On a periodic basis. So periodically means it can be per year, every year. So it means interest for this year will be gotten, interest for next year will be gotten. It can be monthly, it can be weekly. Now, on the principal plus previous earned interest. Now, follow me, guys. Let's quickly do. Now, while I'm doing this, I want us to participate together. Let's all unmute ourselves. We're going to participate this together now. Unmute yourselves. Now, take for instance. Now, please, nobody should make noise. Just unmute yourself so that as we are doing this, you will give me the answer. Now, take for instance, your principal is 2,000. So please take note of that now while you are with your note there. Your principal is 2,000. Your rate is 20%. And your time is 2 years. Now, we want to calculate this based on compound interest. Now, I want to show us how compound interest works. The meaning of compound interest is the periodic interest earned on the principal plus previous interest earned. I want to show us now. Now, take note. when you are calculating compound interest, you calculate for your interest annually. When you are calculating for compound interest, calculate for your interest when? Annually. So it means that now this question we are all about to solve now, we calculate for this question for 2 years. So we're going to calculate for our interest for 2 years. So remember, what is interest? Interest is what? Principal times rate times time, right? Per 100. So let's do this together. Now, we have how many years? 2 years, right? So we have to calculate our interest for how many years? 2 years. Remember, when we are calculating for compound interest, we calculated for all our interest at once. That's for the total number of years given to us. But when we are calculating for compound interest, rather, that was simple interest. But when we are calculating for compound interest, we are to calculate for our interest annually. That's how it works. The interest is calculated for annually. So how do we calculate for this interest annually? So I will now come here and say interest for year 1. So let's do this together, everybody. So interest for year 1 will now be what? 2,000 naira times 20%. 20%, that's 20 over 100 times 1. Take note, it's not times 2. Why is it not times 2? Because we are calculating for our interest what? Annually. So everybody, what's that? What's the interest for the first year going to give us? What's it going to give us? What's the answer? Oh yeah. A quick feedback. What's the interest for the first year? You can send your own as chart. You can choose to say your own, just what's convenient for you. But I'm waiting. So for the first year, what will be our interest? I'm waiting. Okay, Aditola Zainab, 400, correct? Jairus, you wanted to say something?
Yeah.
What's the answer?
I'm coming.
Okay. So I've seen some answers on the group. 400, yeah. Zainab, correct. Otegu, correct. Okay. Stephen, 400, correct. Just hold on.
Okay.
Proceed yet. Yes, Jairus.
Okay. My answer here is 400.
400, correct. So let's hold on now. Now, please reduce the background noise.
If
you carry 100 divided by 2,000, you have a what? You have 20.
So now, our interest for year 1 is 400 naira, right? Correct. We are all correct. So remember that the question, the definition says that the interest is earned on the principal plus end interest. So what's our principal for the first year? Our principal for the first year is what? 2,000, right? So it means that we have used our principal for the first year to calculate our interest for the first year, which amounted to how much? 400. Going to the second year now. Now, going to the second year, our principal for the second year will now be what? 2,000 plus 400. Now, look at it. The interest for the first year is 400. So what compound interest is trying to tell us is that we are reinvesting that interest again on the principal. So it means that as we go every year, as we invest the money every year, any interest we get for the first year will be added back to the principal, and that becomes the principal for the second year. I take that again. Any interest we earn for the first year added back to the principal, and whatever we get will now be the principal for the second year. So it means that in this question now, our principal for the first year is 2,000 naira. And we have used the 2,000 naira to calculate our interest for the first year, which is 400 naira. So what do we do now? Add back that 400 naira to what? 2,000. What will be our new principal? 2,400. Now, what have we done there? We have reinvested our interest, which is 400 naira. We have invested it back on the principal. So our new principal for year 2 is now how much? 2,400. So now everybody, let's use that same 2,400 now to calculate our interest for year 2. Now let's do that together. So please take note, year 2 will not be times 2, it will still be times 1. That will be for the second year. That will be for the second year. So that will be 2,400 naira times 20 over 100 times 1 again. So what will that give us? So I'm waiting. Okay, Zainab 480, very correct. So who else? Daniel 480, very, very correct. Who else? Aminu 480, very correct. Sonny 480, very correct. Otegu 480, very correct. Steven 480, very correct. Like, that's very, very correct. We are all correct. So now, what do we now do in this instance now? So everybody, what will be our total interest for the 2 years? Oh yeah, calculate the total interest for the 2 years. Total interest for the 2 years will now be what? I'll not tell us. We have total interest for the 2 years. So what will be our total interest for the 2 years? Yeah, what's the answer? Total interest for the 2 years will be what? Yeah, Gyros, correct. So total interest for the 2 years, waiting, sharp, sharp. No, total interest. Yeah, Stephen, correct. Aminu, is total interest, not the principal plus interest again. You know that this is the second year. We don't have additional year. Now, Aminu, take note. Assuming we have a third year, then that 2,880 will be the principal for the third year. But we don't have a third year. We are done with the 2 years we are investing the money. So what will be our total interest for the 2 years now? That will be interest for the first year and interest for the second year. Exactly. Right, Sonny, correct. Phoenix Maxi is correct. Daniel, correct. Salman, correct. Aminu, exactly, correct. Correct. Yeah. Moses, where do you see your 0?
Oh, it's a mistake. I want to type 880.
Okay. Oh yeah, please type it very well. I really need it. So Gyros, correct. Okay, very good. Now let's do a comparison. Very, very quick. Now, we are still working with this question. So now, based on compound interest that we have all calculated for now, our total interest for the 2 years will be what? 800 and what? 80 naira. So what will be our amount? Oh yeah, everybody. What will be our amount? So our amount will be what? 2,400 plus what? 800 and what? 80 naira. That will be what? So what will be our amount? Sorry, it's not going to be 2004, it will be 2000 rather. The original principal, please take note of that. The original principal, 2000. 2000. So what will be our amount now? So what will be the amount the investment will amount to exactly? 2,880. 2,880, very correct. 2,880. So now, a very quick one. That same question we just solved now using compound interest. Let's use simple interest. Remember, don't forget the simple interest. We are calculating the whole interest at once, right? So everybody now, let's use simple interest now to calculate it. Remember, I equals PRT over 100, right? So let's just calculate it straight. So that will be 2,000. Oh yeah, let's do that together, everybody. So based on simple interest now, what will be our interest? Based on simple interest, what will be our interest and what will be our amount? So write both the interest and the amount together when you're typing your answer. So based on simple interest, what will be our interest, what will be our amount? Please, let's type. Thank you. Michael, you have not been contributing. Michael Adebisi, I've not seen you. You have not submitted any answer since everybody has been submitting. Hope all is well, sir. Please, I hope you are here on the class. Okay. So now, look at the comparison here now. Based on simple interest, yeah, we are very correct. Based on simple interest, our interest amounted to 800 and our amount is 2,800. Now, based on compound interest, our interest amounted to 880 naira and our amount 2,880 naira. So that leaves me ask a question. If you are to choose this investment based on either simple interest or compound interest, which one would you go for? So your answer, please type. If you are to choose this investment based on either compound interest or simple interest, which one would you go? Would you go for simple interest or compound? I mean, no, compound definitely. You like money. Okay? Don't just say compound interest. Why? Why would you go for compound interest? Now, why? The why there. Why would you go for compound interest? Michael, I'm still not seeing anything. I'm taking note of everybody that is contributing. So why would you go for compound interest? Because of the added interest derived, okay? So what we did using compound interest is called reinvested interest. So take note, reinvested interest. Okay, because the return on investment of compound interest is higher than that of simple interest. Exactly. So now you have gotten the basics now. So when you are investing based on compound interest, you definitely get a higher return on investment. Why? Because your compound interest will be calculated based on your what interest earned in your account annually. Are we together? So the interest is spreading across the number of years. Unlike simple interest, where your interest is just calculated to. So that's the basics of compound interest. But you know that we can't, if we have a question for 10 years, we can't go in this form like this. It's going to be very, very long. That leads us to formula. So now, let's look at it. Okay, before we move, so let's look at the second part on the slide. It is the interest calculated on the principal and the interest accumulated over the previous years. So the interest is accumulating over years. So your total interest will be accumulated interest all added together. It is different from simple interest, where interest is not added to the principal. So for simple interest, you don't add interest to your principal. So let's move. We can read others on our. Okay, I'm seeing something here that we need to understand. Look at the next slide. Suppose we observe our bank statement. Generally notice that some interest is credited to our account every year. When I talked about bank and its customers earlier on. Now, suppose we observe our bank statement, generally notice that some interest is credited to our account every year. This interest varies with each year for the same principal amount. We can see that the interest increases for successive years. Hence, we can conclude that the interest charged by the bank is not simple interest, it's compound interest. I said it earlier on. Bank charges interest based on compound interest, because their interest is what accumulated every year. So take note, I started by saying the interest on compound interest is calculated on periodic basis. So it can be annually, like this one we did illustration for now is based on annually. Some can be semi-annually, which is twice in a year, every six months. Some can be quarterly, which is 4 times in a year. So we have 4 quarters in a year. Some can be quarterly. Okay. Yes, 4 times in a month. So yeah, 4 times in a year rather. 4 times in a year. So it means January, February, March. I'll teach us how it works. Okay, now let me quickly emphasize on that now. For the sake of so everybody, let's pay attention. So if our interest is to be compounded, now what does it mean for an interest to be compounded? Now, for an interest to be compounded, it means that interest be spread across the period of time once you make that investment. So if it is quarterly, now everybody, let's pay attention. Let's assume our interest rate is 12%. Oh yeah, we are going again. Take note of that, everybody, 12%. Now, if our interest is quarterly, so quarterly means what? 4 times in a year, right? So now in your jotter, everybody do January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Now, so separate it. So you can see in a quarter is how many months? 3 months, right? So the first 3 months is the first quarter. Like currently now we're in March. So we're in the first quarter of 2024 currently. The next 3 months is the second quarter. The next 3 months is the third quarter. The next 3 months is the fourth quarter. So quarterly means what? 4 times a year. Now let me explain the meaning of this interest being compounded quarterly. So for this interest to compound quarterly, it means that interest rate will be paid 4 times in a year. The interest rates on that investment will be, our interest on that investment will be earned, will be realized 4 times in a year. So if our investment is for 5 years, If our investment is for 5 years, and remember, in 1 year, our interest is realized how many times? 4 times. So for 5 years, our interest is realized how many times? 20 times. Are we together? If our investment is for 5 years, remember that interest compounding quarterly means that your interest is what realized 4 times in a year. 4 times in a year. That means every 3 months, there is an interest. Every 3 months, there is another interest. Every 3 months, there is another interest. So if the interest is to be realized, sorry, if our investment is to run for 5 years, so it means that we are going to realize our interest for 20 times in that 5 years. So how does this interest work? So remember that our interest is right? Quarterly means what? 4 times. So everybody divide 12% by 4. Everybody divide 12% by 4. What's your answer? Everybody divide 12% by 4. Yeah, what's the answer? Divide 12% by 4. What's your answer? Okay? I'm waiting. Sharp, no time. %12 by 4. Now, 0.03. So, means that, now look at it here, look at the gist. Means that for every quarter, interest will be what? 3%. You don't get it. I know you're confused. Pay attention. The interest rate is 12%, right? And we are told that our investment is to be compounded on a quarterly basis. So it means we want to pay that interest. We want to pay that interest 4 times in a year. So, and look at it. We are not going to pay 12% 4 times in a year. No. If we pay 12% 4 times in a year, that means we are paying more interest. Are we together? So it means that for the whole quarter, for the first quarter, which is the first 3 months, how much interest will be paid? 3%. That's 0.03. For the next quarter, how much will be paid? Another 0.03. For the third quarter, how much will be paid? 3% again. For the last quarter, how much will be paid? 3% again. So multiply 3% by 4 will give you 12%. So it means year 1, our 12% has been paid on quarterly basis. So 3% on each quarter. Okay, Aminu, you want to ask a question? I'm listening. Is it on the first year or the final year? Which of the ROI? Is it after the first year? Yeah, the 3% will be throughout the quarter. 3% will be throughout the quarter. The first quarter will be 3%. First quarter will be 3%. Second quarter will be 3%. The third quarter will be 3%. The last quarter will be 3%. So if you multiply those 3% by 4, it's going to give you 12%. So get it. 12% is the interest rate. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay.
Let's say I invested 1,000 naira.
Okay.
On the 3% interest for the first quarter.
Okay.
So 3% of 1,000 naira.
Okay.
3% of 1,000 naira is 30 naira, right?
Now, that's not how you will calculate it. Now, listen. Remember, it's a quarter. So what's quarter?
Yes.
Quarter is 1/4, right?
Yes.
So the way you are calculating it based on an annual interest. If it was annual, then that will be 3%, like that will be 12% times 1,000 naira times 1. But because it's on a quarterly basis, so that will be 1,000 naira times is 3%, Abi. 3%, then times 1/4 over 12. You get it now? 1/4 over 12.
Okay, sir. Let's use 4%.
You say?
Let's use 4%.
2%.
4%. 4.
4%. I'm still saying the
So
same
that
thing.
means for
Is
each
it
quarter there
4%?
will be 1%.
Is it 4% for each quarter?
No, if the total interest is 4%
If the total
per
interest
year,
is 4%, right? And
yes, per
I
year,
want to pay it on a quarterly basis, right?
that's 1% per quarter.
That'll be, yes, that'll be back 1%
1% per
per
quarter.
quarter, exactly.
So 1,000
So that'll be 1%
divided by
per
100.
quarter. Oh yeah, now look at it. So if it's
That's
1%,
10 naira per quarter.
no, it will not be 10 naira. It will not be 10 naira. It will not be 10 naira. Look at it. It will not be 10 naira. Why will it not be 10 naira? What you just calculated is based on annual. Like you didn't calculate it for quarter. Remember, I just told you quarter is 1/4. So that's
Yes, sir.
that 1% you are calculating is just for 1/4 out of how many? 4, right?
Yes.
So it means that for 1 year, you have to calculate 1/4 4 times. Do you get that?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm doing, sir.
So now let me guide you on how you will now do that. So that will be 1,000 times 1% times 1/4 divided by 12. So what's 1/4 divided by 12? That's 0.02. Do you get it now? So your interest for the first year will be 2 kobo. Sorry, for the first quarter will be 2 kobo. Have you gotten that, Aminu?
No, sir. I'm confused.
Eh?
I'm confused.
You're confused.
Yes, sir.
Look at it.
So maybe you didn't get my question correct.
Wait. Let's come back to what we are working with. 12%, right?
Okay.
So now remember that 12% is the annual interest rate, right?
Yes.
That's for 1 year. So now, okay, let us say we want to save 10,000. So everybody, please, let's participate in this together. We want to save 10,000 for, let's say, for 2 years at 12% compounded quarterly. We want to save 10,000. Please, everybody, let's get this. We want to save 10,000 naira for 2 years at 12% compounded quarterly. So, because our interest is going to be compounded quarterly, means that this 12% is the annual interest, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But we are to pay our interest how many times in a year?
4.
So if we are to pay our interest 4 times in a year, so that will be, the first thing I will do is I will spread these interest rates. I will spread these interest rates,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I mean, you are very correct. It's 10 naira. It's 10 naira.
Hmm.
It's 10 naira. It's 10 naira. It's 10 naira.
Okay.
So
So that
it
means
means,
that's
sorry,
my 1,000 naira.
sorry. So it means that
My
since,
1,000 naira.
okay,
My 1,000 naira plus my 10 naira for the first quarter, right?
no. It will not be. It
That's
will not be for. It
1,000
will not be first quarter. Like you know that first quarter will be 10 naira, abi? Second
yes.
quarter too will be
So
what?
plus my
10
so you
naira.
put it
Wait.
10 naira.
Wait. First quarter will be 10 naira, right?
Yes,
Second
sir.
quarter will be 10 naira as well, abi? Third
No, sir.
quarter will
Second
be.
quarter cannot be 10 naira.
It will be. It will still be 10 naira now. Remember, it's the same
So it
interest.
is
Like
compounding.
no.
Yes, sir, but it is compounding. If you add my 10 naira for first quarter to my 1,000 naira, the principal amount has increased.
Okay. Yes.
Therefore, the 3% value
That'll
must
be
increase.
1,010 naira. Exactly.
So the 3% for 1,010 naira must increase.
Yes. You're
So
correct.
it cannot be the same throughout the 4 quarters.
Yes. The interest will not be the same throughout the 4 quarters, but it's still going to be the same
Yes,
interest rates throughout the
keep
four
increasing.
quarters.
Yes, the same interest rate, but different amount
Yes.
because it will keep
Different.
compounding.
Exactly.
Subsequently.
I just got your
So
question.
therefore,
Yeah.
yes. So the 3% for the second quarter will be 3% of 1,010 naira.
Yes. It will be on 1,010 naira.
Not, yes, not 3% of 1,000 naira.
Yes. No, it will be on 1,010 naira.
Yes, that's what I want to understand.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's clear. Okay. Daniel, the annual interest rate is 12%. We are not working with monthly. We are working with quarterly. If it was monthly would be 0.06. Take note. We are not working with monthly interest rate. We are working with quarterly interest rates. So your calculation here is based on what you said here is based on monthly, but the answer you are getting here is quarterly. So what we are working with is quarterly, not monthly. So quarterly interest rate will be 0.03. So Daniel, get that. Yes, you are breaking it down, but you are breaking it down on the basis of months, not the basis of quarter. No, months will be by 12. Yeah, month will be by 12. So that will be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% times 12. But quarterly is by 4 times in a year. Get that will be 0.03 first quarter, 0.03 second quarter, 0.03 third quarter, and last quarter. So I believe we have all understood the basis behind compound interest. So the interest is compounding every period is compounding. So what will be the interest in the first year will not be what will be the interest in the second year. Yeah, Daniel, the quarterly means that the interest will be paid to you 4 times in a year for 5 years. Exactly. The interest will be paid to you 4 times in a year for 5 years. Exactly. You are very correct. The interest will be paid to you 4 times in a year for 5 years. So guys, that's the concept behind compound interest. That's the basic idea behind compound interest. So without wasting much time, let's go to the videos and watch. So the videos, I now did some calculation. So I gave a very, very, very comprehensive formula. So there is no time for us to experiment it now. So I broke the formula down for us in the video. So if you watch the video on okay, now see my next slide now. Everybody, let's pay attention. So you see This is the comprehensive formula now. So you can see. Now, so instead of us trying to calculate first year, second year, third year, fourth year, no, it's not going to pay. It's going to be so very, very long. So we just put everything in this one formula. A equals P into bracket 1 plus R over 100 raised to power what? N. So there is no time, like we don't really have much time. And you see formula when it is compounded. So you can see the formula when it is compounded is different from when it is not compounded. So this first formula that is carrying raised to power n is when the interest, when the compound interest is paid annually. Is when the compound interest is paid annually. This first formula I see here is when the compound interest is paid annually. But this next formula we are seeing that is raised to power mt is when the compound interest is paid either monthly or quarterly or semi-annually or daily. Is when the compound interest is paid either monthly. So in that process now, the interest is compounding. The interest is what? Compounding. So you are breaking down the interest to this number of periods. Are we together? So you go to the video and watch the calculation of compound interest. So this is at least we have gotten the basic idea of what compound interest means, and all of us are able to grab it. We are able to flow with everything. So why does compound interest matter? We can read this time on our own. Read it on your own and understand it by yourself. It's the basic thing we need to do. We have done together. We have done together. So you can see this other one as well. This is just for us to understand, get. So real life application of compound interest, real life application of compound interest. You can see retirement saving, mortgage payments, car loan, investment returns. So these are real life situations where compound interest is applicable. Yes, these are real life situations where compound interest is applicable. So example of compound interest in action: savings account, certificate of deposit, retirement account, stocks and bond. These are markets, these are financial market investments open for in the stock exchange for us to understand. So we can all that. So these aspects, effective rate of interest is just ability towards differentiate between one interest and the other, So this is an illustration on compound interest. This is an illustration on compound interest. So we have the formula for effective rate of interest there. We use the formula to solve. You see question number 4 in the illustration has to do with effective rate of interest. You can see the formula of effective rate of interest. So use the formula to apply this. I've taught us how to do it. So before you enter into this calculation, first watch the video. So the video will help you to know how to break down the formulas, how to break down each of the parameters. So you see differences between simple and compound interest. Differences between simple and compound interest. They are here for us to read. So read it. We understand from our response and all our, I believe we have gotten the basic knowledge we need. So just go what's the calculations and understand better and lay your hands on more questions to understand better. So this is another difference between compound interest and simple interest. Okay, so if I deposit 30K for 20 years ago, and the interest per month is 1%, how much will I be getting after 20 years? Yeah, calculate it by yourself. Daniel, you deposited 30,000 naira 20 years ago, right? And interest rate per month is 1%. How much will you be getting 20 years? So Daniel, you should be able to calculate that yourself. We have done the basic thing we need to do. But if you want to be calculating all these things based on per month, you'll be giving yourself stress. So go back to the formula and see. Look at it. See the formula you're going to use. That's why I said go and watch the video, the calculation first. Once you have watched the calculation, you know what to do with this formula. You know, there is no time. We have a lot of things to cover, and I really want us to understand these fundamentals. It's going to help us going forward. So once you have watched, so Daniel, now, once you watch the calculation, you will understand this formula very well. So applicable to every one of us as well. Once we watch the calculation, it's going to help us to understand the formula very, very well. So probably while we are on break, we can simply take a little time out to watch calculations and get it better. So Daniel, that's that. So those are the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So annuity, anybody wants to ask a question? So Daniel. So Daniel, so Daniel, I'll suggest that this 1% interest per month, make it 12%. So that by the time you have watched the video, you'll be able to apply the whole percent on the video. Oh, you have even calculated for it. You're a scholar. All right, okay. Is annuity and investment plan? Yes, it is. They are all simple interest, compound interest. Yeah, break time is 12 noon to return. Yeah, we have 23 more minutes to break, so calm down. Oh, easy man. I do. So is annuity and investment plan? Yes, they are all investment platforms. So how it works is, once you understand the principle behind all this investment, then you know the one that works for you. So what I would suggest now is, each and every one of us, try to do an in-depth study and go and try to look out for investment platforms or organizations that make use of all these different investment platforms. So look out for which organization uses simple interest, which organization uses compound interest, which organization uses annuity. Are we together? Definitely, every organization uses investment appraisal techniques, but we'll not be touching appraisal because it's a very, very in-depth topic. We'll not be touching it as part of what we're going to be dealing with today. That will be treated some other time. So that's a different investment. That one has to do with knowing what you want to invest, knowing what you are to get when the investment is being made, knowing whether to venture into the investment or not to venture into the investment. So, okay, betting companies uses annuity, all right? Okay, I love that. Betting company uses annuity like Ninja Bet. So you can see that. So it's not less for you. So what we are learning is, these are the different investment platforms. So you now want to venture into an investment. Which one do you think will work for you? So the first thing you have to do is now here. So maybe you have 100,000 naira and you want to invest 100,000 naira. So on your own, do your own personal calculation. Okay, if I want to invest 100,000 naira for 5 years on simple interest, what will it amount to? Compound interest, what will it amount to? On annuity, what will it amount to? Then you'll be able to know which investment opportunity is okay for you. But all of them are all investment techniques. They are way of us knowing how to invest our money. There's another one we call amortization. That one has to do with installment payments. So money you cannot pay at once, you pay it on installments. you earn interest on it as well. Pay interest on it as well. It's not just going to allow you to pay the installment basis. There's another one we call sinking fund. Sinking fund, that one has to do with you planning towards a specific sum of money in future. So what sinking fund has to do is that I want to save 500,000 naira in the future. So sinking fund technique tells me that how much do I need to start saving now? If I want to save 5,000 naira, 500,000 naira in the next 5 years, how much do I have to start saving now to be able to save 5,000 naira in the next 5 years? You understand? So look out for organizations that uses all these investment. So watch out for the calculation on annuity as well. This calculation on annuity. Annuity is a payment, is a sum of payment that is made at regular intervals of time. So annuity is a payment as well, series of equal payment made at regular intervals of time. So these are key notes on annuity. So on annuity, we have what we call two main types of annuity are ordinary annuity and annuity due. Ordinary annuity and annuity due. So ordinary annuity is a payment you make at the end of a period. That's ordinary annuity. It's a payment you make at the end of a period. While annuity due is a payment you make at the beginning of a period. So you can see types of annuity. Ordinary annuity, also referred to as annuity immediate, an annuity whose payments are made at the end of each period. So example of this kind of payments, you can tell me without me saying anything. A payment you make at the end of a period. Oh yeah, comment your answer. Sharp. Example of ordinary annuity. I'm waiting. Payments you make at the end of a period. What type of payment do you make at the end of a period? Oh yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for your answers. Tax? Tax is not a payment. Tax is a levy. Stephen, tax is a levy. You understand? It's not like a payment per se. You know, tax is something you cannot escape. So you understand? So tax is out of it. What other payments do you make at the end? Rent, exactly. Hey, Michael Adebisi finalist talk though. Michael Adebisi, you are welcome back. Rent, insurance, exactly. Rent, insurance. So those are annuity payments that you make at the beginning. So ordinary annuity is made at the beginning. Sorry, at the end rather. While annuity due is made at the beginning. Annuity due is made at the beginning. So rent will go for annuity due. Insurance will go for ordinary annuity. Insurance will go for ordinary annuity because you insure your whatever you're insuring at the end of the period. But rent, you pay rent at the beginning of the period. You pay rent at the beginning of the period. So rent will go for annuity due. Insurance will go for ordinary annuity. So yeah. What did you say? I didn't get. Okay. So now somebody is saying what of mortgage? Now mortgage is kind of a loan per se. Yeah, you can still say mortgage. Can still say mortgage. But if you are going to talk about mortgage, as an accountant, classify mortgage as a liability, not an expenses per se. You get? Like rent now is an expenses that you incur in a period. But mortgage is like a liability, it's an obligation due. You understand? So trying to just distinct between the payment of mortgage and that of rent. Then savings, deposit is savings. So those are different annuities we have, majorly ordinary annuity and annuity due. So you see the formula. So it can be future value, it can be present value. So what is future value? What is present value? Now look at it. What is future value? What is present value? Now you can see present value has to do the value as of today. The amount you have currently, that's present value. So future value, you can see, or compound amount. So future value is what that present value wants to become. Are we together? Does it make sense? Future value is what that present value wants to become. So present value is what you have as at now. So if I have 20,000 naira and I want to make an investment on 20,000 naira. So what 20,000 naira will become in the next 5 years? It's my future. So why my 20,000 naira will be my present value? So that's present value and value. See now another difference: present value or future value, basis of comparison. Meaning, now number one, for present value, it is the current value of future cash flow, future value. While for future value, over a period of time with simple or compound interest. So present value has to do with what you have at the beginning, what you have at the moment. So while future value has to do with compound amount. So the sum that you have at the beginning, you have already invested it. So what does it amount to? Now, on the basis of rates, present value involve both discounted as well as interest rates. Yeah. Present value can be discounted and can also be in form of interest rates. Now, to discount something is to bring the future value, a future sum, into the current amount. To bring a future sum into a current amount. That's what it means to discount. So there is difference between discounting and compounding. So let's take a look at that. To compound means to accumulate. For the money to accumulate over a period of time. But to discount means to bring something from the future back to present. That's what it means to discount. When we are dealing with investment appraisal, we understand the concept of discounting techniques. So investment appraisal, another investment yardstick, uses discounting techniques, while all these other ones we have been talking about using compounding techniques. So take note. Investment appraisal uses discounting techniques, while simple interest, compound interest, annuity uses compounding techniques. So to discount has to do with what? Bringing a future sum into the current value. You understand? So it means that if I predict a future cash inflow to be 200,000, now look at it. I predict a future cash inflow to be 200,000. Now, if I want to discount this 200,000, what it means is that how much will this 200,000 worth today? That's discounting. This 200,000 is a future value. I predict that, okay, I'm going to earn a future inflow of 200,000 naira. So if I want to discount this 200,000 naira, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, I have predicted that I will earn a future cash inflow of 200,000. But what will be the worth of this 200,000 naira today's money, considering the interest rates? What will be the worth of this 200,000 naira in today's money, considering the interest rate. So that's the concept of discounting. So to compound is to accumulate a sum by a long period of time. To discount is to bring a future sum to its current value. You don't want a future sum worth the current value. So these are illustrations on annuity. These are illustrations on annuity. When we watch the videos on synthesis, company and annuity, then the materials will be sent to us after the class. So on your own, now each of those questions, go and attempt them, or each of those questions, go and attempt them on your own. That is after you have watched the video. So before we go on our break, when we come back from break, we're moving to matrix, and we are going to be matrix is what we are going to be at come back our break. So before we go for break, anybody has a question, and you enjoy the class, even though we are not seeing ourselves, it's as if in front of you teaching. I really appreciate the fact that everybody is participating, and I believe everybody is getting what we need to get. Anybody want to say anything? Ask a question based on what we discussed so far before we go to our break. Okay. So I guess when we come back from break, you meet each other. I mean, you're in Kano now. Don't worry, maybe one day we'll. So when we come back from our break, we are going to deal with matrix. It's another interesting topic, and it has its application to business. We are going to do it the way we have been doing nothing. So I guess we need to cool our head. So I'm sure the class is being recorded. The class is being recorded. So everything that is needed will be sent to us so that we can have something to read as we go, and assessments with students. So when we come back, we are going to be dealing with matrix and determine. We're looking at the basic concept of found good qualitative. So it's a nice time being together so far. Let's enjoy our 1 hour break. So we're meeting back at 1 p.m. No late, 1 p.m. classes. So see you later.
Okay, all right, everyone. So we are going on a short break for now. So we'll be back please be back by 12:45 while we resume the class by 1. So everyone should be back by 12:45. All right. Please, we don't want to be chasing you around. Once it's that time, you should start coming in. Thank you so much.